Good morning again, Pete. Here we are
Morning.
again, Friday morning, but this is January 4th, 2013, the new
We
year.
made it.
So,
The
oh,
Mayans
lordy
were
lord.
wrong.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so you're going to do a quick run today, huh?
Yep. We're going to do a real quick one, 10 lines of code. But
Oh,
we get a
boy.
lot done in those 10 lines of code.
Loving it.
So,
Okay,
all right.
you're
So
on.
let's look at the effect first. This is basically our under construction page. You know, every website has, especially when they're first launched, the under construction page. There's been a heavy trend, especially to sites that are going to do heavy marketing pushes or whatever, to do catchy, coming soon pages. And that's the basics of what this page is. After we got it done, we were kind of disappointed that, the goal of the site is to eliminate this page because it was kind of fun to do. But such is life. So all it does is once we start soft launching and start doing some marketing hype, when you go to sign up, you'll come to this page instead of going to the real sign up page. And we'll let you know that we're not quite ready to take signups yet. Give us your email address and we'll let you know as soon as you are. And we're kind of owning the whole doctor medical theme to our marketing. So, we did the little play on the doctors out making house calls. So as part of that effect, when you first come to the page, the doctor starts running across the screen, and as he gets to the edge, he fades out. And we'll watch that one more time. And just as he touches the edge, you'll start seeing him fade. Then right as he crosses the back edge, he fades completely out. And that works regardless of the screen resolution. Even if we shrink down and we're running on a very small phone resolution, you'll still see him fade out as he hits the edge. So that's what we're going to look at today. Pretty easy stuff to set up once we get in and start looking at the code. So the first thing we'll look at is the actual page setup. We are using the zoning features of version 17. God love them. The page is set up to center in the browser. That's the reason we don't see it over to the left side, or we don't see it stretching and filling the entire page, because we have zoning set to not stretch the page, and we say we want it centered. And then the other piece we have is down here on the styles section. We specified this extra clean paper JPEG as the background image. And that is what gives us this parchment paper kind of look back behind our page instead of just being white back there, just to give it a little bit of a
So is that
softer
just a little,
image.
like a little square or something? Pete, is that like a
Yeah,
little square or
it's
something
it's
that
a very small.
gets stretched out? Okay.
Yeah, it's a very small image. Yeah. Extra.
So that'd be easy to like rotate whatever look you want there if you wanted to.
Exactly. Yep, there's the
23K.
image
Okay.
file. Yeah, it's just a little JPEG. It's actually 512 by 512 pixels, but that setting here is telling it that.
So that's a good size to use for those side things then?
It really doesn't seem to matter. It's all more about the pattern and
Okay.
where I got that one from. And I will look for the link and post a link on Skype later. There's a site that's all they do is have patterns for backdrops like that. They have hundreds of these little JPEGs to use as patterns. And the nice thing about them is they're set up where they tile very nicely. So that's the page setup. The next thing you set up is the doctor himself. He's an image control. He happens to be 300 pixels by 300 pixels. He's set to display in full mode. I'm not doing any transition effects or anything because we're doing those manually. And you remember what this button is, Arnold?
No.
That's the make it work button.
Make
The
it work. The
control can be
control can
overlaid.
overlay.
Right.
Ah.
If we didn't have that on, we couldn't set him on top of the other controls.
So
It
what
would
tab was
kind
that
of
on
shove
again?
everything out of the way. That is on
Description.
GUI
Oh,
tab.
it's right there on the GUI.
And
Okay.
it's in a slightly different spot for different controls, but I think it's always on the GUI tab. It's just in a slightly different, on like cells, it's down over here where it lists all the controls that are contained in the cell. But that's the magic button that without that we wouldn't be able to have him sitting on top of the other controls.
So that's your semi-flash type of banner, huh?
Yeah. And of course the image is transparent. That's how we've got the effect of him not sitting on top of things. And occasionally you do have to come up here to control and move up, move back to get the right one on top.
Ah, that's a
So
good hint.
otherwise, the house might be on top of him instead of him on top of the house. Which
Got it.
that's a little too Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz for me. All right, so that is the page setup. Now on to the code. Our on load, and of course, again, this is all browser code. As we discussed last time, browser code is code that's going to run completely on the user's browser, not communicating with the server or anything like that. And all we're doing is we're starting a timer. This time we're doing it with a value of 1, which means for every 100th of a second, it is going to fire that timer. And we're calling the browser procedure called move the dock. And when this timer is created, it creates a unique ID for that timer and stores that in dock timer. So again, all this is doing is saying, hey, run the move the dock procedure every 100th of a second. And then we come down to the actual procedure. Let me blow that up a little bit since there aren't many lines of code. That is all the code of this procedure. Now, what the heck's that code doing? It's not very readable. Well, let's read it backwards. It's a little easier to understand if we look at it backwards. So let's look at this line first. The .x property, well, first of all, IMG, the doctor, is that image control that's containing the doctor. The .x property is the current horizontal position of the doctor. Now, the doctor starts out at 457. Now, that 457 is relative to the page, though. That's assuming that this were 0, he'd be at 457. But depending on the resolution, that actual value will change, and we'll see that in a second as we go through this code. So all this statement is doing, again, this runs every 100th of a second. So it's taking the X position, the horizontal position of the doctor, and decreasing it by 2. So we know that he is 457 pixels from the edge of the screen. So that means it's going to take 2.28 seconds for him to touch the edge of the page, because we're decreasing it by 2 every time. So you take 457 divided by 2 divided by 100. That's how many seconds it's going to take for the edge of the doctor to touch the edge of the page. So when we run that effect at 2.28 seconds, his fist touches the edge. So that's the first line of code down here at the bottom. This next if statement. Yes, sir.
Chris had a question. He says, is there a reason you don't do that first and then follow the position checks with position checks?
Because this is the way my brain worked when I wrote it. I don't know that it really would make a difference one way or the other. This next if statement here is again using the X position of the doctor, and it's also now using the X position of the cell footer. That is this cell down here. And it's hard to select because it's in a template. But what that's doing, the reason I'm using this X position at all is, remember again, we talked about the fact that this is all relative to the screen resolution. As I widen the screen, this position is moving. So if I were to run now, X would be 0 because it's right against the edge. But if I run now, X is probably like 100 for that cell. So by using that X position of that cell footer, it lets me
Oh,
make
I
all this
get it.
logic be relative.
Mm-hmm.
So what this code is testing for is the X position of the doctor less than the X position of the cell footer. In other words, if this is 0, this is 457. As we move 2 pixels to the left every 100th of a second, at 2.28 seconds, now the X position of the doctor is going to start being less than the X position of the footer. So now we know the doctor has reached the edge of the page. That's what that's what that if statement is really saying. Has the doctor reached the edge of the page? If he has reached the edge of the page, we use the opacity, I guess is how you're supposed to say that,
Sounds good to me.
property. Yeah. I think that may be Fringlish for transparency. Uh, 100 is solid. 0 is completely invisible. So it lets us set the see-through layer, the transparency of an image anywhere from completely solid to completely invisible. Now, what we're doing here is we're taking that X position of the cell footer minus the X position of the doctor. We know the doctor is 300 pixels. This code doesn't start firing until the doctor is less than the cell footer. So what that means is if this is 0, the doctor hits -1, -2, -3. So for the next 300 pixels, the doctor is now scooting across that edge of the page. So we take 300 pixels, divide by 3 gives us 100. So it gives us a nice number to say, okay, we want that doctor to fade from being completely solid when he touches the edge to being completely invisible right as he crosses the threshold. So if, if the doctor is
Sweet.
halfway across, he will be -150. So you take the -150, divide by 3, you got 75. Or I'm sorry, 25. That'll divide out, and that's your transparency level. So again, if we watch him run, you'll notice he starts fading right there, and right as his back end touches, he is all the way transparent. That is what this line of code is doing. Last thing we
Chris says
do,
brilliant.
yeah, and I'd like to say that I worked all that math out and understood what I was doing when I did it, but uh, I really just plugged away at this thing until he disappeared when I wanted him to disappear. Yeah, there's
Trial and error, huh?
yeah, exactly. It was ugly the first few times until I kind of got my head around what I was trying to do here. So then this code up here is simply saying, hey, has the doctor gone all 300 pixels out? Remember, he's 300 pixels wide. So as soon as he's 300 pixels less than the footer, then we know he has completely crossed the edge of the page. If he has, I'm making completely invisible belt and suspenders. It's the way I code. I've never had my pants fall down as long as I've got belts and suspender on. One may fail, but both don't. So I go ahead and make it invisible just to make sure that he's not hanging around yet. And then I end the timer because I no longer need this procedure to run. And that's the reason we captured the dock timer up above.
Nice.
I told you it was going to be sweet. I mean, it's
All
a little anticlimactic compared to the effect, isn't it? It
mm.
it seems like a lot must be going on to make all that happen, but that's the beauty of WebDev is you can do a pretty neat effect with that amount of code.
So Chris asks, is the dock timer global?
It's a browser. It's running in browser code, so it's running globally to that browser.
So it's a local. It's a local global.
You see the browser actually. You can actually see uh, if we fire this up.
Global to the instance.
Say he's still running even though we can't see him. So yeah, but it's running within the browser's thread.
Cool. Any other questions? That's slick, man.
Yeah, it's
Gotta
pretty
do it.
simple. And then just to give you a preview of what our next one will be, we will take everything we learned from the cure and from the doctor and create this effect.
So you made your own slideshow, huh?
Exactly. And probably by the time we do this one, I will have, Charles gave me a suggestion of doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 underneath here. I probably
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
add
Usually you
that
see
into it.
those. Yeah. Usually you see those or dots so that they can click back to the one they want to see.
Right. Which you can do that by the arrows.
You know. Yeah.
And once you click an arrow, it no longer flips automatically. It's another one of those, I'm trying to get you to explore on your own scenarios, like the way the
Hmm.
cure does.
Chris asks, I don't understand. Overlaid images with changing opacity. Um, what's the question,
Hang
Chris?
on a second. Yes, I think what he's talking about is if you watch very closely, Arnold, when I click that arrow,
Oh, he's talking about this
it's
guy.
very
Yeah.
subtle. One of them is fading out, the other one's fading in.
Okay.
So right in the middle, both images are 50% visible. It happens so
So you're
fast
doing
that
that
it's
on.
very subtle.
So you're doing that on the image, but you're changing the text too at the same time. So are you doing anything with the
Right.
text?
All of it is doing that. If you watch the text, you'll see at a certain
Oh,
point, and
okay.
I can actually capture it where you can see it a little better. Maybe, whoop, too slow.
But that's next time.
There you go. See, can you see that, Arnold?
Yeah. Half half.
Yep. Yeah. That's to accomplish that. We're using multiple links or multiple timers. So it's taking everything we've done from the cure and from the running doctor and putting it on steroids.
So have you tried it on an iPad or anything like that?
Uh, I've noticed it runs a little slow on my Samsung. Uh,
Uh-huh.
my partner's ran it on his iPad and doesn't have any problems. I can't remember. This may be the one that does not work. One of these effects does not work in Safari. And it works in Firefox, IE, Chrome. So if it works in 3 browsers, I'm going to blame it on Safari.
Yeah, because I just ran it on my iPad. It says the resource you are looking for has been removed, has changed names or template. Whoa, 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 whoa. What's the heck?
Yeah, I think you went to the wrong page.
thecure.com/y dot
The
awp,
tax
right?
cure. The tax cure, not the cure.
Oh, I forgot the word tax. Sorry. Oh, come on. So, oh, this is next time anyway. Tax.
Andrew
T-A-X.
just finally showed his lazy butt up.
Yeah. Okay, it's changing. It looks okay. Yeah. Pete, it looks okay. It looks pretty good on the iPad.
Cool.
I should do the doctor one on the
Yeah, the
iPad.
doctor, for whatever reason, runs a little slow on the tablet, at least on my tablet. And I don't worry too much about those things on the tablets, although people will find our pages on the tablets and stuff. It's not the type of site that you're going to, be using on a tablet. You might find us and pique your interest, but once you get into the site, you're not going to be putting your tax information in via your phone or a tablet.
Well, cool. Well, a lot of people are joining now, and we're just about done.
Yeah,
The
I don't know.
5:30, the
Apparently
5:30
not a
mark
lot of
has
people
been
know
hit.
how to work a clock.
Oh, Charles says he doesn't have one. Remember, in the Skype, and that's why he just showed up. Oh Lord.
All right, so that's all I've got. And Rob's going to teach us everything we ever wanted to know about PayPal next week, right?
Something like that, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So,
He's not here,
thank you so much again for your have fun at your PT.
Morning. Certainly will.
Morning, Andy.
I had to take care of business.
Say your thing and
be good or be good at it.
On the new year.
On the new year.
Okay.
13, perfect number.